The Young and the Restless spoilers next week January 13th to 17th 2025 Sharon's determination. The air in the damp, dimly lit room felt heavy, almost suffocating. Sharon's wrists were raw from the restraints, her body aching from the cold, unyielding floor. But her spirit? That was unbroken. Her sharp mind was already working, searching for a way out. That's when she saw it, the metallic glint of a steel rod lying just beyond her reach. Her pulse quickened. If she could get that rod, she could break the flimsy chain binding her. Freedom was within her grasp, but it wasn't going to be easy. She stretched her arm out, straining against the chain. The rod seemed tauntingly close, yet impossibly far. She looked around the room, searching for something, anything, that could help. Her eyes landed on a loose stone from the wall nearby. With careful maneuvering, she used her foot to nudge the stone closer until it was within her grasp. Holding the stone, Sharon tossed it with precision, nudging the rod slightly closer. A few more attempts, and the rod finally slid within her reach. Her fingers closed around the cold, smooth surface, and a triumphant smile spread across her face. With the rod in hand, she examined the chain. It was weak, its links thin and fragile. Using the rod as leverage, Sharon twisted and bent until the chain finally gave way with a satisfying snap. Her heart raced with adrenaline as she stood, rubbing her sore wrists. She was free, but she wasn't safe yet. Jordan could return at any moment, and Sharon needed to disappear before that happened. With quiet determination, she moved toward the door, her mind racing with plans to escape the nightmare she'd been trapped in. A surprise visitor at Abby's. Meanwhile, across town at Abby Newman's house, a different kind of tension was brewing. The bright, airy living room was a stark contrast to the darkness Sharon had just escaped. Abby had been enjoying a quiet moment with her son Dominic when the doorbell rang. When she opened the door, her heart sank. Standing there, with an almost disarming smile, was Ian Ward. "Abby," Ian greeted, his tone warm and friendly. "It's been a long time." Abby immediately stiffened. Ian Ward, an infamous manipulator and sworn enemy of the Newman family, was the last person she wanted to see on her doorstep. Her instincts screamed to slam the door in his face, but her curiosity kept her frozen for a moment. "What are you doing here, Ian?" she asked coldly, stepping protectively in front of Dominic. Ian raised his hands in a gesture of peace. "Relax, I come in peace. I know my past with your family hasn't been ideal. But I've changed. I'm not the man I used to be. I just wanted to drop by and prove to you that I'm a better person now." Abby's eyes narrowed. "You'll have to forgive me if I don't believe that. The last time you were around, you left nothing but chaos." Ian nodded, his expression earnest. "I understand your hesitation, but I'm serious about making amends. People can change, Abby." Before Abby could respond, Dominic, ever trusting and innocent, ran toward Ian with a beaming smile. "Hi," he exclaimed, throwing his small arms around Ian in a hug. Abby's heart leapt into her throat. "Dominic." "No," she called out, rushing forward. She gently pulled her son away, her hands trembling. "Dominic," Abby said firmly, crouching down to meet his eyes. "You don't hug strangers. This man, he's not someone we trust." "But he seems nice," Dominic replied innocently, looking up at Ian. Ian's smile faltered slightly, though he quickly masked it with a look of understanding. "It's okay, Abby. I get it. You're protective of your son, and you should be." Abby stood, her protective instincts sharper than ever. "I think you should leave, Ian. Now." Ian held her gaze for a moment before nodding. "Fair enough. But I hope you'll give me a chance to prove myself someday." He turned and walked away, but Abby couldn't shake the unease that settled over her. She locked the door behind him, her mind racing. Why was Ian Ward back in town? And what was his real agenda? The Newman family's warning Abby wasted no time. She picked up her phone and called Nick. Ian Ward was just here, she said as soon as he answered. Nick's voice was sharp. What? At your house? Yes, Abby replied. He said he's changed, that he's trying to make amends, but I don't believe a word of it. Dominic hugged him. Nick. He was in my house. Nick cursed under his breath. Abby, listen to me. Ian Ward doesn't change. He's a master manipulator. Whatever he's doing back in Genoa City, it's not good. I'll call Dad. We'll handle this. Abby nodded, her grip tightening on the phone. Do it fast. I don't want him anywhere near my family. The plot thickens as Sharon made her way back into Genoa City, her escape fueling her resolve, and Abby wrestled with the reappearance of Ian Ward. The threads of danger and mystery were weaving tighter. The Newman family had their hands full, and the stakes were only growing higher. For Sharon, freedom was only the first step. For Abby, protecting her son from the likes of Ian Ward was paramount. And for the Newman family, the storm brewing in Genoa City threatened to expose secrets and ignite rivalries that had been simmering for years. To be continued. This installment heightens the tension and builds on the intrigue surrounding both Sharon's escape and Ian Ward's reappearance, setting the stage for even more drama and conflict. Nick's desperate search. Nick Newman paced the floor of Crimson Lights, his jaw clenched and his phone gripped tightly in his hand. He had been reaching out to everyone he could think of friends, family, even private investigators, but every lead on Sharon had turned into a dead end. The silence was unbearable. Sharon was out there somewhere, and every passing second without finding her felt like failure. Come on, Sharon, he muttered under his breath. Give me a sign, anything. Faith walked in, her face pale with worry. Dad, any news? Nick shook his head. Nothing yet. But I'm not giving up. I know she's alive. She has to be. Faith nodded, tears brimming in her eyes. She's strong, Dad. If anyone can make it through this, it's Mom. Nick pulled her into a hug, but his mind was already racing. He needed another plan. If the usual channels weren't working, maybe it was time to think outside the box. He dialed Victor Newman, his father and a man with more connections than anyone else in Genoa City. Victor, it's Nick. I need your help. It's about Sharon. A ray of hope unbeknownst to Nick, help for Sharon was already on its way, though not from the person he expected. In the shadows of Genoa City, Ray Rosales, Sharon's former husband and still her fierce protector, had caught wind of her disappearance. Despite their differences, Ray knew Sharon's survival instincts better than anyone, and something about the situation didn't sit right with him. Using his connections in law enforcement, Ray tracked down Jordan's known associates and pieced together a trail. It led him to the outskirts of Genoa City, where he discovered an abandoned property with signs of recent activity. Inside, he found remnants of a broken chain, a discarded scarf, and footprints leading out of the building. His heart raced. Sharon had been here, and she had escaped. Ray didn't hesitate. He called Nick immediately. Nick, it's Ray. I found something. Sharon's alive. I'm sure of it. Damien and Amy's fragile future. Meanwhile, across town, Damien and Amy sat in a dimly lit apartment, their voices hushed as they discussed their precarious situation. The couple had built a life of deceit, their secrets carefully hidden from the people who trusted them most. Damien had worked tirelessly to gain Nate Hastings' confidence, presenting himself as a loyal ally. His next target was Devin Hamilton, a man notoriously difficult to win over. Amy looked at Damien, worry etched on her face. How much longer do you think we can keep this up? If anyone finds out about our plan, we'll lose everything. Damien leaned back, his expression calm and calculated. We're not going to get caught. I've worked too hard to get here. Nate trusts me, and Devin, he's skeptical, but I'll win him over. Once I do, we'll be untouchable. Amy wasn't convinced. What if someone finds out about what we did? About the money? They won't just fire us, Damien. They'll destroy us. Damien reached for her hand, his voice soft but firm. No one's going to find out. I've covered every angle. All we have to do is stick to the plan. But deep down, Amy wasn't so sure. The weight of their lies was growing heavier, and the walls felt like they were closing in. All it would take was one slip, one wrong move, and their carefully constructed facade would come crashing down. Winning Devon's trust. Damien's next move was critical. Over the past few weeks, he had subtly inserted himself into Devon's orbit, offering advice, support, and an unwavering loyalty that Devon had started to notice. But gaining Devon's trust required more than just words, it required actions. At a charity gala hosted by Devon's foundation, Damien saw his chance. When a technical glitch threatened to derail the evening, Damien stepped in, solving the problem with ease and earning Devon's gratitude. "Thanks for that," Devon said, clapping Damien on the back. "You really came through tonight." Damien smiled, his tone humble. "Just doing my part. I believe in what you're doing here, Devon. It's an honor to be a part of it." Devon nodded, his expression thoughtful. "You've been solid, Damien. I appreciate that." Damien felt a surge of triumph. It was a small victory, but it was a step closer to his goal. Now, all he needed was to solidify that trust and ensure no one uncovered the skeletons in his closet. A tense reunion back in the search for Sharon, Nick and Ray joined forces, their shared determination fueling their efforts. Following Ray's lead, they tracked Sharon's escape route, eventually finding themselves in a wooded area on the outskirts of Genoa City. As they searched, Nick suddenly froze. In the distance, he saw a figure stumbling through the trees, her movements slow and deliberate. His heart leapt. "Sharon," he called out, running toward her. Sharon turned, her face pale and her eyes wide with relief. "Nick." He reached her and pulled her into his arms, holding her tightly as if afraid she might disappear again. "You're safe now," he whispered, his voice thick with emotion. "I've got you." Ray approached, his expression a mix of relief and concern. "Sharon, are you okay? What happened?" Sharon took a deep breath, her voice trembling but strong. "Jordan. She kidnapped me, but I escaped. She's still out there." Nick's expression hardened. "She won't get away with this. I promise you that." The storm ahead as Sharon's ordeal came to an end, a new chapter of challenges was beginning. Nick and Ray were determined to bring Jordan to justice, but the danger wasn't over. Meanwhile, Damien and Amy's secrets continued to threaten their future, with the Newman and Hamilton families unknowingly caught in the crossfire. In Genoa City, secrets never stayed buried for long, and the truth always had a way of coming to light. The question wasn't if the lies would unravel, it was when.